Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nurroidah Malik, and I will answer question about plot, setting, and characterization. Plot number 1. All Summer in a Day is a short story about a group of school children living on the planet Venus. The children at school eagerly await the predicted appearance of the sun, a brief phenomenon that occurs only once every 7 years on Venus. The central conflict of the story is that Margaret does not fit with the other children. The basic situation is that it has been raining on Venus for 7 years. The children, who are 9 years old, did not remember ever seeing the sun. The sun is scheduled to come on, so the kids are very excited. Number 2. Yes, the story was arranged chronologically. Number 3. Formula that support the plot is about Margaret's origin. Margaret has only lived in Venice about 5 years, unlike the other children who has lived in Venice their entire life. And so, Margaret has already remembered what the sun looks like. Number 4. Considering that it is a short story, the plot was reasonably fast-paced. Number 5. The characterization for the student and the Margaret is what mainly moves the plot. Their curiosity about the sun leads their action to be emphasized toward Margaret. Number 6. The conflict of this plot revolves on how the students are hating and jealous of Margaret. It is more emotional and intelligent conflict. The conflict was resolved at the end of the story when the children had finally seen the sun and let Margaret out of the closet. Number 7. The climax of the story occurs when the students are trying to lock Margaret in the closet. Number 8. The ending of the story was indeterminate because there was no further action, dialogue, or a closing statement from the character nor the narrator. Number 9. The plot does not have its unity and all in an episode, all relevant to the effect of the story. From the explanation from the setting of the story, the introduction to each character and their nature to each other doesn't affect each incident to proceed and lead naturally. The last question is, there are no change or coincidence used in the story. They are relevant to the plot. Next is setting. Number 1. The story is set sometime in the distant future on the planet Venus. Number 2. At school in the class when the Margaret and her friends study. Number 3. It was non-stop for rain for 7 years, thousands of days on Venus. The author began the story this way to show how the setting contributes to the kids' misery because the constant influx of rain. Number 4. Yes, the environment makes them feel trapped and dissatisfied. The sun only appears one day for 7 years and only lasts a few minutes, so they can never feel freely in an environment without continuous rain. Number 5. Since she remembers the sun, Margaret wants to be there even more than the other kids. She's fading away on Venus with this constant rain. And the last question is, due to the difference in environment on Earth and on Venus, Margaret becomes depressed, lonely, and weak due to the lack of the sun. Characterization. Before I introduce you Margaret the protagonist, I will introduce you to another character. First is William. William is a boy in Margaret's class, and he acts a ringleader for the other student. Because he is jealous of Margaret's experience, he discredits her when she talks about the sun and tries to provoke her into fighting with him. And another character is teacher. The teacher reprimands William for trying to discredit Margaret. She is out of the room when the other children bully Margaret, and she doesn't notice that Margaret is missing when she sends the class outside. So, question number 1. Margaret is the protagonist of All Summer in a Day. She is a 9-year-old girl who moved from Ohio to the planet Venus when she was 4 years old. Margaret longed intensely for the sun, which she remembered vividly from her time on Earth. Number 2. Margaret looked after herself moved to Venus at age 4. This difference in perspective made Margaret uneasy to target for bullying. Number 3. Margaret is self-impelled child. The other child could not understand Margaret in her longing for different life. This difference in perspective caused her to remain separate from the other, giving her an air of loneliness and sadness. Number 4. As Margaret slowly and continuously started to show her face, the students all crowd around to stare at her. Her face appeared in anger, with tears rushing down her face. The children stood frozen in place, as if they had no ability to move or speak. Number 5. The first introduction to a character are the students of the school. These introductions are meant to refine the main setting of the story. It can be seen in the first paragraph of the story. Number 6. More or less, the action of the character are consistent enough to reflect their nature. Although it will be less plausible to the reader, but the action that the character have done as the main factor to keep the plot of the story ongoing. The author also doesn't use much of the stock character. Number 7. The only development that happened to the character is the student action to let Margaret out of the closet, but even that doesn't fully justify the role in the story. Number 8. It is indeterminate because by the end of the story, when the students were letting Margaret out of the closet, there is no clarify whether the student experienced regrets about what they did to Margaret. And the last question is, she does not change from the beginning to the end of the story.
Okay, I'm here to explain about the point of view of this short story. So, All Summer in a Day by Ray Bradbury is rendered by a third-person point of view. The narrator is anonymous, which means we don't know who he is, and he functions as an observer of the characters. Regarding life on Venus, the narrator seems to have unlimited knowledge. The author was consistent to use the third-person point of view and does not make any shifts. With the chosen point of view, we know more about the feelings and events that occurs in the characters in the story. The narrator was reliable because the narrator knows everything that happens. The narrator tells all the feelings and events that happen to the character in the story. The narrator is very helpful in explaining the story and the point of view used, especially helping to reveal what happened in the story. The narrator also doesn't withhold any important information known to the focal character. Now I'm here to explain the imagery used in this story. First, imagery refers to the use of figurative language to evoke a sensory experience or create a picture with words for a reader. For example, in the passage, she knew they thought they remember a warmness, like a blushing in the face, in the body, in the arms and legs and trembling hands. This is an example of a tactile imagery used to evoke the sense of touch by describing how something physically feels. The next example is, she was a very frail girl who looked as if she had been lost in the rain for years, and the rain had washed out the blue from her eyes, and the red from her mouth, and the yellow from her hair. This line that the narrator used to describe Margaret is an example of visual imagery. An imagery appeals to readers' sense of motion imagery that appeals to the sense of sight through the description of color, light, size, pattern, etc. In our group, we feel sad when the authors describe Margaret. She had been lost in the rain for years, and the rain had washed out the blue from her eyes, and the red from her mouth, and the yellow from her hair. Because this makes Margaret seem very sad. The most appealing imagery that is used is visual imagery because this imagery helps describe the story and the characteristics of the characters. In our opinion, the author wants to use this imagery to describe Margot's feelings as the main character in the story. This imagery makes us understand the action of the main character, how she still insists on the son even though she is hated and bullied, which is the central theme of this story. Next, I will explain about the symbolism. There are many objects that are symbolized in this story. Mainly, the main examples are the sun and the weeds. The sun embodies all of nature and its effect on people demonstrate the inextricable connection between humans and the natural world. On Venus, the sun only comes out every 7 years, and for the remainder of the time, people live underground in the darkness, hiding from the pelting rain. Venus, therefore, is a society that is entirely removed from nature, something both caused by and symbolized by the absence of the sun. Weeds and unruly plants appear multiple times in the story, sometimes unexpectedly. They are used to emphasize the damaging effects of deprivation from the sun. Both the physical environment and the inhabitants of Venus have become cruel and inhospitable in the absence of sunlight. There are no people or character in the story that act as a symbol. When it rains, the rain can symbolize many things. It can represent unhappiness, rebirth, foreboding, determination, the outbreak of drought, and a pause for introspection. Next, I will explain about the figurative language that are used in this story. The figurative language of simile, for example. The children pressed to each other like so many roses, so many weeds, intermixed, peering out for a look at the hidden sun. The next example is they turned on themselves like a feverish wheel, all tumbling spokes. And then there's the hyperbole figurative language. For example, 1,000 forests had been crushed under the rain and grown up 1,000 times to be crushed again. The next example is, and then of course the biggest crime of all was that she had come here only 5 years ago from Earth. The next figurative language is metaphor. The example are, she knew they were dreaming, or remembering gold or a yellow crayon or a coin large enough to buy the world with.
The tone of Summer in Day is melancholy. Tone refers to the speaker's attitude toward his subject. In All Summer in Day, the writer develops a dreary tone through imagery. Both choice and conflict, the author begins the story this way to show how the setting contributes to the kids' misery because of the constant influence of rain. In the story, All Summer in Day develops the mood of sadness and depression, and to make the reader believe that the characters were sad and gloomy. The author wants to raise the issue of bullying so that he describes Margot and her passion for the son. The author also sympathy with someone who has the same fate as Margot who gets bullied. One reason the story suggests is when people can't get over their own pain, they sometimes end up hurting others. Ray Bradbury, a dystopian story, All Summer and Day, takes place on Venus, a planet where it rains all the time. Margot, a recent arrival on Venus, remembers what the other children cannot. Next, irony. Yes, this situation is ironic. In the story, Margot can see sunlight because her friends are locked in closet by her friends. Yes, the character of William and other Margot friends have ironic thoughts. They do not believe what Margot said about the sun. William character and the rest of Margot's friends say ironic. things as she and Morgan conversation with them. It's like a penny, she said once a rose. No, it is not, the children cried. It's like fire, she said, in the stew. You're lying, you don't remember, cried the children. Next time, in our opinion, the reason to the other wrote the story was because he wanted to write a story about bully, and he has chosen to explore this theme in the context of future generation that has chance to travel between planets as a sequence of evolution. The theme is bully, which is caused by jealousy and envy. It is implicit. There is more than one theme, is nostalgia and longing. This theme supports popular ideas like revolution and bully as they exist in real life. The message of all summer in day is that the root cause of bullying are jealousy and fear. Margaret's classmates are jealous of her and uneasy about her instance for the existence of a stranger to them.
General question. Number one. From the title, we can understand that this story is about summer that we can only experience in a day. Number two. Yes, I enjoy reading. Reading is actually my hobbies. I really like imagining characters in my hand. Apart from giving pleasure, reading uh, also an escape to pastime. Thank you.
The story tells of the day when the sun is after 7 long years. It's like a whole summer for the people who live on Venus. Of course, reading is fun. Reading helps us practice imagination. The story simply offers escape. One of the most entertaining parts of reading is probably stepping into another world and immersing yourself in that book setting.
The title of the story implied the phenomenon that is happening in the setting of the story, which was how the sun only appears once every 7 years and only appears for a brief hour. I enjoy reading the story. The plot and the narrative of the story was interesting enough when I first read it. In my opinion, the story only offers an entertainment purpose.